Howdy folks, lurking from Mobalytics with another Daily Destiny video. Just kidding, we're going over my Ball Lightning speed farm build with Flickersteps, and then I'll show you how to easily transition to Asus. Um, I already filmed the videos, but we got a Flickerstep Vault T100 speed run with full Ubers, and then we have a Vault speed run with no Ubers whatsoever, and then we have an Uber Lillith kill with no Ubers whatsoever. So I'm going to go over the build as fully kitted, and so we're going to start off with the enchantments. So when you're running Flickersteps, you're going to run Lightning Spear and Teleport Enchant. And we do end up taking Enchantment Master to increase this chance from a 10 to 12% chance to make spears. And then we do take this so that it reduces the cooldown from like 12 to 9.8. So it's really nice. Just got a lot of spears going, scaling Conj Mastery. In some of the boss kills that I've done, I get 16 out. Like it's honestly really crazy. And then for bosses, like you're gonna want to take off your Flickersteps and you just put on Asus, and you can leave the you can just do like a quick enchant swap to like Ice Blades or even Chain Lightning to make more crackling. Like it's really not a big deal. You're gonna shred basically any boss in a T100. So we'll put Teleport back on because this is the speed farm variant. But then when you're doing Hell Tides and stuff, like yeah, just put on Asus because they're just faster. There's some downtime with the Flickersteps when moving from pack to pack where you're a little slow, and it just is what it is. So first off, we're going to start off with the helmet. We have Shaco, and if you don't have a Shaco, you can just put on like an ever-living helmet, something like this, with total armor, max life, cooldown reduction, and then probably max mana would be best. I'm finding that I don't need the life on kill anymore. I liked it when I was like leveling for Blizzard and stuff, but you could just take max mana. We'll just leave that guy on so when I go over the skill tree. Next we have Raiment of the Infinite for teleport. It's really good with teleport enchant because every time you teleport, you don't get the unstoppable from it, but you do get the 30% DR and you get the Raiment clumping. So you're just basically bopping from enemy to enemy, stunning them all, and then nuking them with all your multipliers. Next, we have Storm Swell gloves. So you can put Ancient Flame on the gloves, and then you can put Storm Swell on here. It's really preference. It doesn't make too much of a difference. You get 25% more attack speed this way for ramping. You get 15% more damage to vulnerable enemies with the barrier if you put Storm Swell here. I'm just kind of experimenting right now, so those are either put Storm Swell or Ancient Flame on the amulet. I'll let you decide that. But for your gloves, you're going to want Int, attack speed, crit strike chance, and lucky hit restore. Lucky hit restore comes in clutch sometimes. We don't use Tibaults. We just got double DR, ranks of ball lightning, and total armor. Ideally, you definitely want DR close, and actually it's pretty open-ended with the two DRs that you can get because we have territorial, and we have DR close on the Flickersteps. Even though you are in melee range, so you could take any two of DR close, DR distant, and flat DR. It's not going to make that big of a difference. Kind of make it easier to find a pair of pants. No content's really that demanding to where like you're getting nuked like that. Next we have our Flickersteps or Asus, depending on content dependent. But Flickersteps are going to be the speed farm ones. Just permanent UC uptime, permanent, almost permanent teleport enchant. Like you can't really use teleport enchant well unless you have attacks reduce evade boots. So we got those guys here. Next we're going to take a dagger. If you got a wand, that's fine. Not a big deal. Int all stats, preferably mastery damage or mastery skill damage or damage to close. And a good third option is vulnerable damage because we have so much vuln in this. Take gravitational here to make our Ball Lightning orbit us, deal 25% more damage. This is also another candidate for the amulet. Kind of just one size fits all for all builds, for all Ball Lightning builds. Next we have standard focus. It's got crit chance, mana cost reduction, resource, and cooldown. Mana cost reduction can be lucky hit restore. It's not too picky on that. Conceded for 25% damage because we have a permanent barrier. Every time we evade, we get a barrier. Every time the lightning spear spawns, we get a barrier. So we got barriers for days. Next, we have a crit max life resource gen ring with control. When we're mobbing, this will sort of give us the feeling of Starless skies. When enemies are stunned, we're doing 35% damage, whereas right now Starless does 1.1 to the fourth. It's not 40%, it's 44% damage. And then the last affix, max mana, that's flexible. Damage to close, lightning damage, vulnerable damage. I opt to not take that much crit damage in this build just because when I am running Flicker Steps, your crit's a little low. So you get more value out of like the flat ones like close vuln or lightning. Next, our little baby uber unique Telrasha. Uh, we get 45% damage. We get that through our shock skills, flame shield, and ice blades. And sometimes when I'm bossing, I do have a swap ring. You could swap to Edge Master or Splintering, something like that. It's not really needed, but sometimes I just do. So if you have like a spare ring lying around that's pretty decent, you can put something that's not conditional on crowd control, because as of now, bosses can't be crowd controlled. And next, this is my one-size-fits-all Ami. 3 ranks Conj Mastery, cooldown reduction, mana cost, and movement speed. If you're running Asus full time, you can drop movement speed for 3 ranks mastery. You'll get a lot of value out of that. But because I'm alternating between Asus and Flicker all the time, I just drop the 3 ranks of mastery. Because when you have Evernight and Shaco, you get and ranks on the BL pants, you get like 13 ranks. So the 3 ranks from here, it's really only worth 12% damage or so. So it's really 12 to 15% damage. So it's not that big of a deal. I just hate being slow. Alright, so we're going to go to our Seneschal Construct. As always, Tempest and Flash of Adrenaline. Flash of Adrenaline has tactical and duration to make it the 12-second combo. And then we have Genesis so that it goes from 20% to 50% damage. And then if you don't have that, just take initiative. That way he teleports to you. And then for Tempest, we have resource support because with Ancient Flame, this build is really hungry on mana. And then I've just been taking Safeguard. I'm finding that I'm nuking everything. I don't need any more damage. Like, so I got resource and Safeguard. And then if you don't have Evernight, you could take Swift so that you get more resource. You could take Efficiency. That way you have a little bit more crit chance on some of those beefier enemies. Or even breaking would be a safe one as well in case you run into a butcher and he's got that big overshield. So you could put breaking in there. Even though you have enough vuln in the build, but just the fact that it destroys the barrier effect on butchers is huge. Alright, so let's go into the skill tree and we'll keep the Shake off. That way we can show you what we're working with, and then we'll go into the Paragon. So I was messing around with Spark, but this doesn't really, these don't matter, just put 2 points in anything. If you plan on running this with Firebolt Enchant, like when you're running Asus, then put 2 points in Firebolt. I was messing around with Spark, trying to get like 25, 30 conjurations out. And next we take 1 rank in Devastation so we can get to Elemental Dominance for 9% damage. You don't have to take these nodes if you don't want to, but I take the Chain Lightning nodes. That way I'm generating more crackling when I'm in UC. Because every time it spawns a Chain Lightning, it's going to crit, it's going to make some crackling for me, it just helps with the mana. If you're having survivability issues, you could also put this in right here, Destructive Charge Bolts. So when you're in UC, you hit stuff with Charge Bolts, and they do 25% less damage. It's pretty nice. Next, I have to fix this. I had this changed a little bit for Uber Lillith, so bear with me. We'll just do this. Oh no. I scuffed it. Alright, because we don't have Ice Blade Enchant on right now, this is what it's going to look like. Yep, there it is. Sorry about that. I changed some stuff for when I was doing Uber Lilith with the no Ubers. So, next we got 1 point in Flame Shield, just to take it. The skill tree changes a little bit too. I can grab back some of the points that I dropped when I do have my Shaco on, because I don't need a point in Ice Armor, etc., etc. So I got 4 points in TP right now, Enhanced Teleport. So that it reduces the cooldown when it lands on shit. Then after teleporting, we get 30% DR for 3 seconds. We maxed out Glass Cannon for 30% damage. It's a pretty good deal, 2 for 1. Elemental Attunement, Lucky Hit, Critical Strikes, reset a defensive skill randomly. Just kind of passively happens. 1 point in Ice Armor, 1 point in Ice Blades. And this is up to you. You can try and put another 2 points in here when you're not running Flickers. So say you are running like Lightning Spear, Ice Blade Enchant, you are going to want the summoned Ice Blades here. So you'll have to, I'll let you decide. You can kind of figure out where to get the point from. It gets easier when you have Shaco, because then you can just take out the Ice Armor and the Flame Shield point and max it out. But for when I'm running Flickers, 1 point's fine. I have enough cooldowns off my Unstable Currents. Next, we take Lightning Spear, the heart of the build. We don't need any points in it. It doesn't do that much damage. It'll scale up a bit. You'll see, I don't know, maybe 100k, 120k Lightning Spear hits sometimes, but it's not getting that much damage, maybe 70k. But when it crits, it makes enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. It always crits like towards the end of it after it hits a bunch of enemies, because you get a 5% stacking chance. So it's just really strong, such a good skill. And then it's going to stun all the enemies. And this is our main damage scaler. We got 6 range of Conj Mastery. As I said, I had like 16 spears out when I was killing a T100 boss, so that's 96% multiplicative damage, outscaling the life out of DB, especially when you're running Flickersteps. Burning just isn't the play, because you have like, I'm not running Elementalist, so like I don't have high crit chance. So I'm finding ways to avoid having to structure my build around burning, because he's like a spoiled brat, and I'm over it. I'm nuking without it. I can do this. 1 point in aligning the elements, so we can reach Mana Shield. This is nice though. We'll get 40% DR against elites. 3 points in Mana Shield for 21% DR for 5 seconds after we spend 100 mana. We as always spending 100 mana. And then we get a cooldown. We get a barrier worth 30% of our life for 3 seconds when we use a cooldown. Cool thing about, so protection does proc, as I said earlier, when you evade through the teleport enchant, when you use any of your skills on the skill bar, and then also during unstable currents. Each skill that activates out of unstable currents counts as a 0.1 second UC activation. Now that doesn't mean that every time it spawns a skill out, it counts as using the full cooldown for, say, Ice Blade enchant, but what it does count for is protection. So you will get when you're in UC, you are always making a barrier, because it's like this little mini proc of a cooldown skill, which is unstable currents. And also, when we conjure a Lightning Spear from picking up Crackling, that's also a barrier. So it's just barriers on fleek here. Next, we have 9 ranks in Ball Lightning. When you have Shaco and Evernight, this is going to go up to +4, so that's 17 ranks. It's going to be some hefty damage. Don't know if this node is working right now. Doesn't matter. We take all the attack speed just for the cast speed. So if they fix this node in the patch, I think it's coming tomorrow. Maybe they fix this, and then we'll be dealing even more damage. Then Wizard's Ball Lightning for the Crackling. This node sucks, barely ever makes Crackling, but we take it for Invigorating Conduit, so we can get 12 mana every time we pick up a Crackling. These points are kind of flex. I've just been running them. The 3 points in Frigid Breeze. Again, Frigid Breeze is bugged. All lightning damage counts as cold damage. I think it has something to do with Tel Rasha and the stacks, one elemental damage refreshing all the stacks, but I digress. So this is going to generate a bunch of mana for us. Because we don't have overflowing, we just take 2 points in UC. We don't need this Crackling energy thing. Pulsing Crackling doesn't do anything for us besides some minuscule damage we don't care about. And we take Prime Unstable Currents for the 25% giga attack speed. 1 point Coursing Currents, and then we take the 3 points in Electrocution for basically 15% DR permanently. And last but not least, we take our bugged Asu Ferocity. So the top part of it, fighter critical strike damage increased by 25% against enemies above half-life, 5% crit below. Those are active for all forms of damage. But the cool thing is even if this gets fixed, critical strikes that kill enemies or hit a boss grant both bonuses against all enemies for 3 seconds. So that is right there, the critical strikes that kill enemies or hit a boss. That is the requirement to activate Asu's Ancient Flame for the attack speed. So even if that node gets fixed, Ancient Flame is still going to proc, and we're still going to get our giga attack speed. So I've just sort of finalized the board. I had to change it a little bit because I was running Burning for a while, and I just finally took it off. So we start off on the starter board with Exploit. You can work this around to have Reinforced here. Because we have so many barriers, if you want to buff your resists or your non-fizz, and then what you would do is you would drop territory, you would put Exploit where Territorial is. But enough of that side tangent. We take Exploit here just for a little bit of vuln damage and 10% multiplicative damage, because we're always hitting things that are vuln. Grab some non-fizz and this all resist. And I do a weird pathing here so I can get to Enchantment Master, which increases our lightning spear from 10 to 12%, and then reduces our teleport evade cooldown by 20%, which is honestly huge. I noticed I didn't have this on the board before, and I noticed a huge difference when I slotted it. And that's just sort of how this stuff comes. You just have to experiment a little bit with different boards. My first board had like no mana, and it just felt terrible. Take this non-fizz, and then we take this non-fizz and this all resist here as well, and we grab charged for 15% damage. So one thing you can do is you can play around with Conjurer. So you get like 100% conjuration damage, which just doesn't really matter. But what it does do is it makes your conjurations last 20% longer. So there is a break point. I don't exactly know where it is. I think it's around 10, because if your conjurations last 20% longer, on average you're going to have 20% more conjurations out. And at 6% per conjuration, I think it's at like somewhere between 10 to 15 conjurations out is where Conjurer will outscale charged, because you need to have 3 extra conjurations out from the increased duration so that it can outscale the 15% damage. So that's just something to consider for people who like are min-maxing uber crazy damage. That's something that you can think about. We sort of ran out of multis because, one, I don't have burning in the build. I can't take flame feeder. And two, the main one is tactician is broken right now, so you're not getting multiplicative damage from it. So that's out the window, or else I would probably not have enchanter and I would have tactician. We take frigid fate. We got a 28% bonus right now. Damage against vulnerable enemies. Grab this. Get a bunch of int from here and some non-fizz. Next we move in here. We max this puppy out at 60, taking Adept. Adept is really important for ball lightning. People in the past have tried dropping it for a multi of some form to try and stretch damage, and what ends up happening is when you Raiment onto a pack, there's a dead spot in the center. I think there even is with Adept, but it's much smaller. But with Adept, that dead spot in the center becomes smaller because you have a donut rotating around you, so it fills in the donut. And then you hit stuff more on the fringes. So this, and then this max mana, this stuff is really important because we don't have Tibaults, and I'm running Shaco. Like, we don't really have any extra mana anywhere. And the way that I got to Enchantment Master in this board was I had to drop Static Surge and that little mana there. So you take this 28 mana right here all day, every day. We path out, first we path out, and we take this non-fizz, and it helps max our all resists. If your gear is perfect, you will have max resistances, but I'm missing a bunch of int on a lot of my rolls, so I don't have max all resist. You'll see. Then we do max out destruction for when we switch to Asus and stuff, and just destruction's really good. Even at 40% crit, it's worth 8%, so it's still really good for getting those really fat crits. We do meet this node here for the 10% lightning resist, despite it being our 5th board. Some of those can be kind of hard to hit sometimes. And then our 6th board, we just take the bare minimum in territorial for basically just for the close DR. And then next, our last board is control at 39 points for 115.8% damage to crowd controlled. This is useless against bossing, but in the Uber Lillith fight that you'll see in a bit, I didn't change anything about the board. This is the board that went in there, and I fully just had a dead glyph against her, and I still just shredded her. So yeah, this is my build, and she's beautiful. And I found myself playing Blizzard at the beginning of the season, but now that I've discovered this Flickerstep Teleport Enchant thing, and I still don't have to run Firebolt or Burning on my pet, I'm loving it because this thing shreds, and you're about to find out. Good luck. I hope you guys love this. I think this is going to be a really good Gauntlet build. Let's say this is Ancient Flame 3.0, Go Fast Edition. So yeah, all right. I'll catch you guys. Enjoy the videos.